Hello everybody and welcome along to this video, which is Mr. Johnson Teaches Edna revision, part of the Inspector Calls series of videos which I've put together revising elements and characters from the play. I've put this video for Edna just because she's a character who often raises a smile when we talk about her in class, because she is very small, and people always volunteer to read Edna are always pleasantly surprised that they've only got maybe a handful of lines to do. Yet she does actually have some important representation and is symbolic in the play, and therefore actually I thought I'd put this video together just very quickly so we recap her. And a quick reminder then, an Inspector Calls is part of your GCSE English Literature. You'll find it on paper 2, section A, and that's where you'll be given a choice of 2 questions and you select the one that you want to answer. Please be ready to write down notes as we talk about Edna in this video. It's important because that gives you something to firstly look back on when you're revising, and secondly means you're much more likely to concentrate and take the information on board. So let's move on then. So for those who may be forgotten, who is Edna? Well, Edna is a domestic servant in the Burling household. So domestic is to do with the home, so she works in their house and in their home, and her servant means that she would have had a range of duties, as I put on that second bullet point, in the house, and she also would have worked long hours. We never find out exactly what Edna's duties are, but it would be very likely cooking maybe, but sometimes they would have a cook. And in fact, no, they don't have. She would not be cooking because she's given a message to go and tell cook from me. So that implies there is a cook in the Burling household. But Edna would be serving the meals, cleaning up after the meals, as I said, cleaning the house certainly, and just waiting on them and doing anything that they ask her to do. Edna has minimal dialogue, and she's given no surname either, unlike the other characters. Once again, almost removing any sort of idea of power, just giving her a first name just makes her seem like she's at the beck and call of the Burlings, meaning that she has to wait on them. She's a minor character I put at the bottom there, but could easily be used by you to make key points which relates to the themes of the play or anything that happens there as well, or other characters. So again, although she's almost, I would bet a huge amount of money on the fact that Edna wouldn't come up as a question, I would still say it's not impossible for you to actually build her into your answers, and if you're clever about it actually, you could do a really good job of that. So what does she do, and does she change? That's a question I've asked of all the characters. Edna doesn't change. That's something I will say here. But here's some of the key moments for her in the play. She starts the play on stage. She's tidying away from the main meal. She's about to bring on the after dinner drinks. The port is what Mr. Burling says. She then later on, shortly afterwards, notifies Mr. Burling that the inspector has called and accompanies the inspector into the room. Him into the room, it should say there, and she introduces him to the Burling family. She's then absent for much of it while he is interrogating them, but then she's talked about at the very end as well. She's included in the stage directions I've put there at the beginning of the play, because that's really important. The fact that although she doesn't have a huge role, she is included there just almost shows that she is important in that sense. She does need to be represented. She says very little, but I've included the things that are said by her and about her here. Like Mrs. Burling, and the lines which lead into it, like Mrs. Burling says, "All right, Edna, I'll ring from the drawing room when we want coffee. Yes, ma'am." So it's lots of yes, ma'ams and sirs from her, but it's also just showing that her main function really is functional. She's just used to do things by the family. Now, of course, that's what we'd expect. That's what she's paid for, but it is just maybe a point that could be made that she's at the direction of the family. The second one there, "Please, sir, an inspector's called." "All right, Edna, show him in. Give us some more light." That's quite important. The fact that she turns up the lights in the room that they're in, and then the interrogation happens, and it almost brightens. It's almost like allowing the inspector to bring in light, and she's the one as a working class person who allows the inspector to come and interrogate these upper class people about their link to a working class girl. So she's almost given that function and that responsibility. Now that's reading into it quite a bit, but if you phrase that right in an exam, that could make a really intelligent, good point for you. There she opens the door and announces Inspector Gould, as I said, so she is the one who brings him into the family and allows the interrogation to happen, if you like. And finally, she's just mentioned near the end by Mrs. Burling, who says, "No, Edna will go. I asked her to wait up and make us some tea." So again, showing that Edna has been not allowed to go to bed after this meal, but has to wait for the Burlings because they might want tea later. So who does Edna, or what does she represent? Well, definitely the working class, and here I've put the serving class, like you see in the picture there, the servants, and there would be many people, but particularly women in this role at this time as well, servants and parlour maids and so forth. She has minimal lines, normally responding to a command, as we said earlier, and she's like one of these invisible, and I've quoted there the Eva Smiths and the John Smiths that the inspector refers to. So although she isn't Eva Smith, she's like her in the sense of she is having to work hard for probably very little pay, while the upper classes sit back and relax. And yes, that's what they're being paid for, but they're being used, they seem to be almost not human in the sense they're not mistreated, but they don't have that identity. She's the one who brings the inspector in, as I've mentioned on that bottom point though, and she's the one who therefore helps bring about a change in their attitude towards people like her. So you could link her with responsibility in the sense of the family start learning to take responsibility for their actions towards others. Others would be people like Edna. The lack of power she has, the fact that she's working class, and that socialist idea that she's the one who a change in society could really help. And possible exam questions. As I said, I would bet a huge sum of money on the fact that Edna would never have a question asked about her, yet I think those questions on the screen there, you wouldn't write just about Edna. That I think would be foolish because there wouldn't be quite enough to be said, but I think you could link her in, particularly where you're talking about Eva Smith and paralleling the fact that mirroring the fact you've got Edna almost in that same role as Eva Smith in some ways, as sort of at the beck and call of the upper classes. But other ones there as well. As I said, she's a minor character, but she could be introduced alongside other ideas to make your points. And that's where this video ends, really. It's only going to be a really quick one, but just recapping the fact that Edna is there, and particularly for those students maybe who feel that they're aiming for the higher marks, I think you could talk about Edna in a really sort of clever and intelligent way. Thanks, and if this is your first video you've watched on my channel, then by all means do check out the other ones, because I've got videos on all the main characters, so have a look at those, and also some of the key ideas and themes from the play. And all I'm going to say is thanks very much for watching, and when it comes to your exams, I wish you the very best of luck. Check out my other videos. Thanks, and goodbye.